Friday, December 15th, and we're halfway through December, and we're only 10 days away from Christmas, and I realized that I have still not talked about a handful of Christmas holiday fragrances that was on my agenda. So I said, enough procrastination, let's sit down and let's talk about all of them. Today, there is a very specific collection I would like to talk about. It's a collection of 4 fragrances. It's going to be the UK or European Christmas 2017 Yankee Candle fragrances. And I've had a chance to spend a little bit of time with these, collect my thoughts, my opinions, and I would like to share them with you right now. So let's jump right in and take a close look at these 4 candles. So the first candle that I want to talk about is Christmas Magic. I really became fond of this label as soon as I saw it. Now, Yankee Candle could have easily found 2 homes, perhaps in New England, early 20th century, late 19th century homes, and taken a photo, but they chose, in my opinion, wisely, to use miniatures. A photo of 2 miniature houses with fake trees, fake snow, and even the background. You can sort of see the layout of the large scale room. So why have they chosen miniatures? Why is it so nostalgic? Why is it so heartwarming to see little Christmas villages, or just miniatures in general? That childlike enthusiasm, excitement, just the photo alone intrigued me immediately to find out what this candle smells like. And what does it smell like? Well, let's give it a shot. Now, the first time I smelled this candle, I thought, cinnamon and pine. That's a really great contrast of aromas. It's one that we don't see too often. But as I sat there with my nose in the jar, I started to see all of the other layers. Like an onion, peeled back one layer at a time, this candle started to unfold. Its story began to be told. And let me tell you, this is one complex candle. There is tons going on here. We have the traditional baking spices, the cinnamon stick, the clove, the freshly ground nutmeg, and the herbaceous notes that are very common on Christmas candles, like a citrusy rosemary and a blue spruce. And then we have some elements that are going to round off those spices, smoothen things up a little bit. Almond extract and vanilla bean. What it does is it makes this much more candy-like right from the get-go. But here's what makes this candle, this fragrance, deviate from the norm. Pine we see all the time. Spices we see all the time, but there's also fruit in here, and not just a little bit. We're getting a lot of blue and black fruits, like black cherry, plum, and blackberry, and not in small doses. In many ways, this also has that cherry cola aroma that you'll find on several Yankee Candle Christmas fragrances, including this year's spicy pepperberry and spruce. And like I said, with that citrusy rosemary, there is some citrus here. And that citrus always frames pine notes really well. And speaking of pine, significant woodiness. Cedar, pine, birch, freshly split firewood, ready to be thrown into that fire pit. And then this note is really what put this into a whole other stratosphere for me as far as complexity. Frankincense. Now, frankincense is a really complex ingredient all its own, but it's definitely contributing and adding to the citrus components of this candle as well as the woody notes in this candle. There is such a close association with incense and Christmas, the holiday season. So with that said, this also smells like unburned incense sticks. You know, the little incense sticks that come in the little log cabins? They're highly compressed biomass that is, of course, highly fragrant. And that is really starting to paint the portrait, concluding the full story of what this candle encapsulates. This candle is an old New England home, but well kept. It smells like the wooden furniture, the floorboards. It smells like a home where a family has gathered for Christmas. In the kitchen, you got the fruit punch. In the dining room, you got all of the spiced treats. In the living room, you have a bunch of family gathered around the fire, the hearth. This is not a smoky candle, but that incense gives you that perceived feeling of being by the fire. And of course, we cannot forget the majestic blue spruce Christmas tree standing in the corner of the room. Christmas Magic, to me, I think is a perfect name for this candle. But honestly, if this candle were named "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," it would work perfectly. It smells like everything we hear about in that story, for the exception of maybe the 8 reindeer. But either way, this candle, I was so pleased with the label that I was hoping that I would enjoy the fragrance, and it turns out that I adore the fragrance. Maybe we'll see this in the US in 2018 for Christmas, or maybe this fragrance repackaged in a different form. Christmas Magic by Yankee Candle. Excellent execution by Yankee, and a great start to this Christmas evaluation. Let's jump to the next candle on the list. In my hand, I hold the perfect tree. Every year for Yankee, and pretty much any candle company there is, we always see a brand new pine-themed scented candle. And I'm always asking myself, how are they going to make this one different? How is this one going to stand out? How is it going to be different from all of the rest that preceded the new candle? Well, let's find out. Okay, so let's put the pine on the side for just a second. We'll get back to it. Big herbal note, herbaceous note here. Rosemary, sage, especially thyme. And believe it or not, I want to say dill a little bit too. So Yankee is adding other herbaceous notes to enhance the already existing pine aroma in the candle. And I didn't talk about that label. Look at the label there. Really nice. We're inside of the Christmas tree. Remember when Chip and Dale would climb around inside of Mickey Mouse's Christmas tree? It's kind of what this makes me think of. Beautiful ornament, nice warm twinkle lights. So the first thing that's coming to mind is that this smells like licorice root, or very sweet licorice candy even. Birch beer, sarsaparilla, star anise, you know, that very particular aroma. And what that does with those other herbal notes is making that pine even more complex. It's building upon the bricks, the blocks of what a pine tree already smells like. It's actually very refreshing. And the longer you spend with your nose in this jar, at least I find that this is taking a cologne direction. For me, I'm smelling that cologne bergamot that is really making the aroma of the balsam tree pop. And here we go. I have to do it. Double your pleasure, double your fun with double mint gum. There is a sweetened, minty side to this candle. And I love that for many reasons. Mintiness and pine, herbal smells. Well, mintiness is herbal. Always go together well. But that cooling sensation that brings us right outside, brings us outdoors, giving us that perceived chilliness in the comfort of our own warm home. And speaking of outdoors, this pine tree, this Christmas tree, is not one that smells like a tree that's been sitting in your living room for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This is a fresh tree. You know, like you just sawed it down with a chainsaw, that oozing, gooey sap stuck to your gloves and the bottom of your boots. This is super fresh, sweet pine. So I am pleasantly surprised here. This does diverge from balsam and cedar, magical frosted forest, shimmering pine, pine cone lime, all of the Christmas pine themed candles that we've seen in recent years. This one does stand out for me a little bit, and I like it. The Perfect Tree by Yankee Candle. You know what? This reminds me of, you remember in the Christmas Story, or when you drive by an open parking lot, they have those stand-up Christmas tree lots, and you pick your already chopped down Christmas tree, throw it on top of the vehicle. Well, when you're in that very tight space, outside in the cold, all of the trees are just crammed together. You're walking by one variety to the next, to the next, to the next of different pine trees, coniferous trees, and you get that conglomeration of pine tree Christmas goodness. This is definitely worth taking a look at if you're a fanatic of the pine tree scented candles. Let's move on.